Welcome to Bite Size Bunny, my name's Tony, and today we are going to be talking about Supergirl. In this movie, Krypto has been poisoned by an evil psychopath named Krim, leaving Supergirl with only 3 days to track him down and get the antidote she needs in order to keep Krypto alive. Supergirl then crosses paths with a girl named Ruthie, whose entire family was murdered by the same man that poisoned Krypto, so the two end up teaming up and running across the galaxy to try and find this guy. I was really excited for this movie going into it. I loved Superman, I loved everything I've seen from the DCU so far, and I was stoked for the next chapter in James Gunn's DC universe. Sadly, I ended up walking away from this one feeling pretty underwhelmed. It's not bad by any means, but I definitely have a lot of mixed feelings on it. Starting out with the positives, Millie Alcock is exceptional as Supergirl. She is the best thing about this movie, and she completely carries this adventure on her back. If it wasn't for her, I honestly don't think this movie would have worked for me at all. She brings this story to life, and I can't wait to see more of her in this universe. I have a feeling that she is going to be one of the best things about the DCU by the time it's all said and done. Eve Ridley is also great as Ruthie. She plays off of Millie's Supergirl so well, and she really holds her own in this film. Jason Momoa is a scene stealer as Lobo. He is perfectly casted in this role, and despite having a very limited amount of screen time, he makes every second count. This movie left me wanting more of his character, and I can't wait to see where all he pops up in the future. And David Corn Sweat, again, barely in the movie, but he brings so much joy to the screen with his presence. I was personally worried that the inclusion of his character was just going to feel like a cheap cameo, but they managed to steer clear of that, and his presence in the film actually feels way more impactful than I was expecting. They also give us a fun glimpse into what we could expect from his dynamic with Millie's Supergirl, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the two reunite in Man of Tomorrow when that releases next year. I think this movie nails most of its characters. When it comes to the story, though, that's where it gets a little bit dicey. I think there are some genuinely great moments sprinkled throughout this film that truly showcase James Gunn's vision of every director's movie in the DC universe feeling like their own distinct creative vision. I also think everything in this movie pertaining to the fall of Krypton is spectacular. I could have watched a whole movie just about that. This movie takes a while to find its footing. It's not until the second act of the movie where it's exploring Supergirl's backstory and kind of covering the history of the fall of Krypton that it started to kind of win me over. But then it ends up kind of losing me again once we get to the third act. When this movie is focused on the hunt for Krim or Supergirl's backstory, that's when I think it is at its absolute best. Though I gotta say, it does feel like the movie is consistently getting sidetracked and that there's some padding here that just feels kind of pointless. I hate to say it, but I found myself feeling a little bored at times with just how paint by numbers it could be. The emotional story beats also didn't really land for me, and I kind of just felt like I was going through the motions after a point, which is wild to say considering how much I loved Krypto and Superman, and this whole film's premise is centered around saving him, so you'd think I would have felt at least a little something along the way. Krim is also an underwhelming villain. He comes across like a sleazy piece of shit, but they don't really flesh him out in any meaningful way that'll leave him feeling like a memorable antagonist. I also gotta mention the needle drops throughout this movie are pretty rough. They feel awkwardly forced into the movie, and they range in quality from being totally forgettable to bafflingly bad. There's one that pops up during the final action sequence of the movie that feels especially bad. If I was watching this at home and not in a packed theater, I probably would have let out an audible groan. Overall, Supergirl should have been great, but it's just kind of fine. It ultimately feels like an okay episode of a great TV show that happened to have some interesting ideas in it. I'm going to be giving Supergirl a 6.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And have you seen Supergirl yet? If so, what are your thoughts on the movie? I'd love to know.